The Ivory Coast flag has three colors: orange, white, and green. The orange represents the color of the land, the white represents peace, but also peace with justice, and the green represents hope and certainty of a better future.
The Ivory Coast is located in West Africa and borders Ghana and Liberia.
The Ivory Coast population as of 2014 is 22,848,945 people. This makes it the 55th largest nation in the world.
The birth rate in the Ivory Coast is 29.25 births.
The death rate in the Ivory Coast is 9.67 people.
The national language of the Ivory Coast is French. However, because the country is so ethnically diverse, they speak different languages based on their region. Some of these languages include Yakuba, Sinufo, and Balue.
Islam is the largest religion in the country, and 36% of Ivory Coast citizens practice the religion. Christianity is the second most practiced religion in Ivory Coast, and 32.8% of Ivory Coast citizens practice this religion. 11.9% of Ivory Coast citizens practice indigenous religions, while 16.7% of citizens don't practice any religion.
Ethnic groups in the Ivory Coast include the Akan, which account for 42.1% of the nation, Voltikis or the Gur, which account for 17.6%, the Northern Mandis, which is 16.5%, the Kraus, which is 11%, and the Southern Mandis, which accounts for 10% of the population.
The Ivory Coast was colonized by the French, and the Ivory Coast gained their independence from France on August 7, 1960.
The capital city of the Ivory Coast is Yamoussoukro. The largest city and the former capital is Abidjan.
The Ivory Coast government is a presidential republic, and it's split into three branches. The president is Alassane Ouattara, and the prime minister is Daniel Kablan-Duncan. The three main branches of the Ivory Coast government is the executive branch, which is run by the president. He's in office for 5 years, and he's in charge of the armed forces. The judicial branch, which they establish laws and order in the Ivory Coast. The highest court is the Supreme Court. And the legislative branch is run by the National Assembly, and all elected officials are in office for 5 years, and their job is to pass legislation that is introduced by the president, or they create the law.
The main exports of the Ivory Coast are cocoa beans, refined petroleum, crude petroleum, rubber, and cocoa paste. Main imports are also crude petroleum, rice, special purpose chips, non-fillet frozen fish, and packaged medicaments.
Famous people from the Ivory Coast include Bernard Argray, a cardinal of the Roman Catholic Church, soccer superstar Didier Drogba, and the founding father of the Ivory Coast, Felix Houphouët-Boigny. The most popular dishes in the Ivory Coast include aloko, which is a fried banana, and kejunu, which is a chicken stew.
The Ivory Coast is a sub-Saharan country that takes up 124,500 square miles of land and 1,720 square miles of water.
The most recent event to hit the Ivory Coast is the Ebola breakout. The Ivory Coast faces a debt of $12.08 billion. The Ivory Coast has a rich history with music, and their most famous musicians are Magic System, Alpha Blondy, and Christina Go. The national animal of the Ivory Coast is the elephant.
In the Ivory Coast, there are approximately 717,000 births per year, 3,400 maternal deaths per year, which means 1 in 44 women experience maternal death. Women 23 to 34 are the majority of women giving birth. The life expectancy in the Ivory Coast is 50.4 years, and there are around 220,000 women living with HIV in the country. In the Ivory Coast, 19% of women attend secondary school. Women have a 44% literacy rate, 64.4% of women attend primary school, and 38.2% of women has suffered from genital mutilation or cutting. Coco,